Ahoy there, Krew! This is your captain speaking, and today we're designing some witches based on different candy. The first sweet treat we'll be transforming is candy corn. All of the characters I'm designing today will have their own sub-themes. The candy corn witch is no different. Candy corn makes me think of Halloween, so it's an obvious choice as a sub-theme. Now, I've never actually had candy corn, so I'll have to rely on Google searches for info about its taste and texture. It seems like candy corn has a waxy texture and its flavoring is inspired by honey, sugar, strawberry, which I wouldn't have guessed, and vanilla. Those flavors actually sound pretty nice. I always see people talking about it being really bad, which I assume would then be because of the texture. Okay, so to start us off, I put her in a pose where I could easily have her playing with her hair. I wanted her to look a little unhinged, so she's tilting a little and has a big smile on her face. At first, I envisioned her with Miku-like twin tails, but decided to change it. Her witch hat wouldn't work very well with such high ponytails after all, so instead I just made her hair loose. Her witch hat, of course, needs to essentially be a piece of candy corn. That wasn't the only thing I brought in a more literal way. There's also her shoes and teeth. I think that's enough candy corn for her design, if not a little too much. To bring in the more general Halloween theme, I gave her some puffy parts to her outfit, specifically her skirt and sleeves. I tried to mimic the shape of a pumpkin with these. I think that comes across pretty well if I do say so myself. Candy corn's colors work pretty well together, so it'll work well as part of the color scheme. I just added some black and green into the mix to make things more Halloween-y. Here is the candy corn witch. She's a little unhinged. She makes me think of Magic Man from Adventure Time. Next up, we're taking a look at the candy apple. Since she's based on an apple, of course I had to go with a nature theme for her. To incorporate this theme, I did quite a few things. First off, the curves in her hat are shaped to mimic a branch, and I even put some leaves on it. The other obvious motif is the branch she's holding. It's meant to look like a witch broom. Since she's more outdoorsy, I gave her some nice red overalls and boots. She's wearing a light-colored shirt, which sort of does a good job at looking like the inside of an apple. This was actually unintentional, I only noticed it after finishing her design, but I think it works really well. But enough about that theme, let's talk about candy apples. Candy apple is just an apple coated with candy, so it has a hard and crunchy exterior. They're the bright ones you usually see, but apparently there's also a thing called caramel apple, and it's something entirely different. Caramel apple is just coated with a nice gooey caramel. This is what I thought was a candy apple, and I realized that after designing this character. So I took the color of the caramel into account when picking her colors. It was a silly accident, but I'm happy I didn't know. I think she came out really cute, and I wouldn't have had her any other way. Since caramel is so sweet, I imagine this witch will be pretty sweet too. She'll be a young girl who helps out wherever she can. She might also be a little naive and get herself into trouble more times than she can count. I imagine her making a nice duo with one of my other OCs, Rowan. Oh, they could actually match with her being Little Red Riding Hood and him being the wolf, just in a more friendly way though. Here she is. I'd love to see some name suggestions in the comments. I really want to add her to my official OC roster, but I'm not sure what to call her. Next, I decided to take inspiration from peanut butter cups, specifically Reese's. This character will have a princess complex, thinking that everyone's beneath her and has to follow her every whim. I put her in a strong triangular stance to signify this. This is also why I gave her a nice long dress and some gloves. A princess can't be getting her hands dirty after all. I made her hair brown to make it look like chocolate. This specific brown is actually really pretty to me. It also matches really well with her skin tone, which is meant to look like the color of peanut butter. There is another thing to note about her hair though. I gave her a hime cut. I figured it would mesh well with her princess complex. There is some black scattered around her design to go back to the little wrapper the peanut butter cups come in. I even mimicked its zigzag edges to create a little trim for her dress. I've been enjoying adding details like that lately. Now, you might see that her dress has some layers, which definitely makes her look more elegant, but it also gives me a little excuse to add an extra color. I decided to add in the yellow that appears in the Reese's logo. It helps break the orange a bit, and in turn, the orange helps make her look a little less like a bee. Yellow and black stripes do that after all. I imagine she can be pretty annoying in a group. She'll be a little delusional and give everyone orders. Meanwhile, someone else would be the one in charge. She would sometimes make a good point with her demands though, and still value everyone as a part of the group to some degree. Here she is though. I really like the pose I put her in, especially with her hand next to her face. Now for the last candy, I chose those vampire teeth gummies. This one has a twist though. I really wanted to design an alternate outfit for myself for Halloween, and I was stuck between a vampire and witch outfit, so why not find a way to do both? Now I was planning to just trace over the sketch for my model art with this new outfit, but I didn't realize that the time-lapse setting was turned off until I finished doing that, so I decided to whip up a quick portrait for you guys to watch while I talk about the design. Of course, I had to give myself a big floppy hat, just not as big and floppy as the one I gave to our apple witch. Obviously, it also mesh well with both the vampire and witch aesthetic, so I added those to my design. I just made them a little sharper to mesh with the sharpness I already have in my hair and the vampire motif. I even made my ears sharper for this purpose. Unfortunately, I had to remove my horns for this design. It would have been a little crowded with all the different themes, and it would have clashed with that. Also made a pretty obvious link to the vampire theme. I drew the shape of a bat onto my new corset. It fills up some space and makes the theme a little more obvious. The frilly skirt gave me a really hard time. I enjoyed seeing the outcome, but drawing it took quite a while. The amount of drawing layers I went through while trying to make it look good. Luckily, I think I got there. It looks nice. Now I gave myself some striped socks, but I'm not really so sure about them. They look a little off to me somehow, but I can't quite place it. I wasn't sure how else to fill up the space, and I didn't just want to give this design long boots as well. But now you can take a look at the final design and artwork. I was going to draw the artwork anyway, it just happened to be a little sooner than expected. I think it came out really cute. But that's all for today, crew. Be sure to like and subscribe so I can see you again for our next voyage. Bye bye!